What is up, everybody? It is Tuesday, November 29th, and this is the Casual Wrestling Daily Podcast, the daily pro wrestling news show where we discuss everything that is going on in the world of WWE and AEW. If you enjoy the content and you are feeling oozy, you are welcome to go ahead and hit that link in the description of this video to donate a couple of dollars. If not, that's okay. Just sit back, relax, and enjoy the next 30 minutes of pro wrestling talk. As always, if you don't know, now you know. I am the Notorious Nerdy D, and I am the voice of the casual wrestling community, also the host of the Casual Wrestling Community channel. Housekeeping for the day. Remember, we are on patreon.com/the casual wrestling show. It is 100% free to follow. That is where we will post all of the community updates. We will post updates on the casual wrestling football or fantasy league there and all the stuff like that. So jump over to patreon.com/the casual wrestling show and hit the follow button. It is because of people like our Patreon producers. It's Zinni, LGRSM, Reedus JC, and Ian Newberry that help support the show. Those guys are the true bloodline of this channel. Everybody else is a two. Those guys are the ones. Let's talk about it's not gonna be I hate starting off the show and going, it's not gonna be a long show, because I don't know. I never know. I could get to rambling and get to talking. But I do know there's not a lot to talk about today. There's not a lot of news. Basically, two big stories. We'll go over the top 5 things that I liked on Monday Night Raw. But other than that, it's just kind of a chill show today. Not a lot to get fired up about. We can jump right in here with the first story of the day, and that is that hashtag Fire Ronda Rousey was trending last night during Monday Night Raw. And that was weird. I saw it, didn't know what it was about, just kind of popped up. I got an alert on my phone. I was like, what's going on here? It wasn't until this morning that I sat down and really kind of looked into the news that I saw what actually happened that caused the kind of uproar. And so Ronda Rousey was seen tweeting and then deleting a tweet that said, this is all in reference to Sasha Banks. This tweet is all in reference to the chants of Sasha Banks. We want Sasha. If you don't know, if you didn't watch yesterday's show, at TD Garden in Boston during Survivor Series War Games, the fans chanted, "We want Sasha" during the Ronda and Shotzi match. So in response to that, Ronda Rousey tweeted out, "You can keep chanting her name all you want in my matches. It won't change the fact that I'm still here," while she ran away. Interesting for Ronda. Now, I know Ronda's a heel. This is what heels are supposed to do. Heels are supposed to generate heat. So if you're looking at it from a work, this is what Ronda's supposed to do. Ronda's supposed to tease. She's supposed to create tension between her and Sasha Banks. If you're looking at this from just a personal standpoint, I don't know if I'm Ronda, if this is the kind of energy I want to throw out into the world. Now, I will start off by saying I've never been a big person on calling for like canceling or calling for someone to be fired based on just something they said, right? So if Ronda tweets this out, I don't know that the correct response to this tweet is to go, "We need to fire Ronda Rousey. She said some shit we don't like." I don't think that's the right thing. Now, can she be critiqued over this tweet? 100%. I think that's okay. I think it's okay to look at the tweet and be critical of the tweet, and that's what I do on a daily basis. But I'm not a big fan of the idea that like hashtag Fire Ronda Rousey is going around. And I know that a certain amount of that is based on her performance in the ring, and a certain amount of that is based on people believing that there's really animosity there between her and Sasha Banks. I don't think so. I think Ronda's just she's doing Ronda Rousey. She's playing the heel. But I have to ask at this point in time, because WWE is really behind the Ronda Rousey machine at this point, and I'm still a little bit confused. I don't know who is the Ronda Rousey target audience at this point. Because I think if you look at the IWC obviously, based on anytime Twitter responds, that's typically your IWC response. So the IWC is not behind Ronda Rousey, which why would they be? She's kind of an outsider. But I don't know that casual fans are necessarily behind Ronda Rousey either, because she tends to kind of attack the crowd, which is usually what the casual fans respond to. She's not bringing in a UFC audience anymore, because those people, I notice a lot that there is some crossover with UFC and WWE fans, but there's also kind of a hard line that gets drawn where there's a lot of UFC fans who just go, wrestling's fake, it's bullshit, I'm not going to watch it. Watch real fighting if you're going to watch real fighting. So she's not bringing over any more of that UFC audience at this point. So who is Ronda Rousey bringing? Because I don't think the shock value is kind of over. The shock value of Ronda Rousey is over. Like, she no longer is a newcomer. She's kind of a mainstay on the roster. And I don't know who she's attracting to watch pro wrestling right now. And when you talk like that, and then you mix that, you compare that to the rumors that Triple H has a plan of putting her into the main event of WrestleMania 39 against, I believe, Becky Lynch is the rumor right now. When you look at that and you go, what is the audience that she brings in, other than that her name still, I think it still attracts some of that mainstream, what I call stupid media, right? The stupid media that just goes after anything that doesn't seem normal. And they attach their name and they see Ronda Rousey in the main event and they go, this is a story, we'll talk about it. But I don't know that people listen when they talk about it. So I think that Triple H has to reassess what we're doing going towards WrestleMania 39. Now, we can talk about Monday Night Raw, and we'll talk about Monday Night Raw. I thought it was a good start to that 9-week layoff booking that we have. Triple H came out and said, look, I can do this. I can go 9 weeks with exciting booking. I don't know how you book Ronda Rousey as champion for 9 weeks with nothing to build towards. She's just not that entertaining. The pairing her with Shayna Baszler didn't make her any more entertaining. I thought that the match with Shotzi, like, they did their best to build it up around this idea that Shotzi could win the match, but it's still, at the end of the day, I think 95% of people who watched that premium live event would say that, number one, they knew exactly what was going to happen, and number two, it didn't do anything. It didn't move the needle. It didn't serve a real purpose. It just felt like, we need to put a SmackDown title match on this card. Just throw it together and we'll see what happens. So when we talk about this, Triple H has a little bit of, I think, a booking problem right now. Now, this is to say, this is based on speculation. This isn't based on, we don't know what Triple H is really going to do. I get that. But I have to base this on the speculation that everywhere I go and everything I read, there is this idea that the two title matches are kind of set in stone at this point. That they have a strong belief that they want to do Becky Ronda and they want to do Bianca Charlotte. I really, I would take a hard look at that if I was Triple H. I really would. I think the better matches to make at WrestleMania are possibly, if you're dying to keep Ronda Rousey in that match, in that main event spotlight, I think the best match to do is to rework Becky, Charlotte, and Ronda in some way. Sell it as the best women wrestler in the world, even though that's not what it is. But that's how WWE, stupendous. They like to throw words out and give these stipulations to matches. I think you do that on one side, and I think on the other side you do Rhea Ripley and Bianca Belair. If I had my way, I don't want Ronda Rousey at WrestleMania at all. Now, is that an overreaction? A little bit, but also, I don't know that she's as entertaining, as exciting as WWE tries to. This is one of those shoved down our throat moments. And we thought, we didn't think, but a lot of people thought that Triple H was going to book things differently. But this is, once again, a day doesn't go by that I don't get comments on a video where I say something about Triple H's booking that they're like, this idiot thinks that things haven't changed. And I keep yesterday I pointed to Hit Row. Today I'll point to Ronda Rousey. You guys explain to me what Triple H is doing with Ronda Rousey that's so much better than what Vince McMahon would have done with Ronda Rousey. And this kind of predetermined booking that we're heading towards that really is booking us into a corner. Somebody explain to me why Ronda Rousey needs to be in WrestleMania again. I don't think she's earned that spot. She's had one really solid match with Charlotte Flair at WrestleMania Backlash, and besides that, there hasn't been anything just overly exciting about Ronda Rousey in the WWE, and it makes me ask the question at a certain point. Has Ronda Rousey overstayed her welcome in the WWE? Because when you look at people like Logan Paul and you look at people like Bad Bunny who come in, they train extremely hard and they get over with the crowd and they look good in the ring and they sell the moves and they do an extremely good job. And then you have Ronda Rousey, who's now been here like 3 or 4 years, and she still can't sell a DDT on the apron. She just won't commit to it. So I start to believe, and I start to have to ask myself, has Ronda Rousey overstayed her welcome in the WWE? And I think so. I think that the novelty has worn off at this point. I don't think that when Ronda first came in, there was this idea of who could beat Ronda Rousey. It's not that anymore. After we've seen people like Liv Morgan, even if it's by upset, beat her, she's no longer superhuman. She no longer has that nostalgia act. We no longer get excited, especially as wrestling fans. She's now just a member of the roster. We don't believe she's any better than Charlotte Flair. We don't believe she's any better than Becky Lynch. We don't believe she's any better than Bianca Belair. She's just another wrestler. So now you have to judge her on her talent, and her talent isn't there. She's not cutting strong promos. After 3 to 4 years, after someone who's been in the public spotlight for a long time, her promo game is not strong. She's not wrestling these high-level matches. They're not extremely exciting. In fact, she's a little bit condescending in the ring, and I know that's probably her playing a character, but that character is strictly a little bit annoying. So I don't know. To me, it might be like this might be the time for Ronda to bow out. I get you're probably having fun, and that's okay. And you cut those interviews earlier in the year where you said you were just here to put other women over. But then it starts to like after you see Shotzi go down and you see Liv go down and you see Ronda holding the belt and you see the rumors of her holding that belt all the way to WrestleMania. That means we have to stomach another 4 months of this, guys. We have to go another 4 months of Ronda holding that belt. I mean, Sasha Banks cannot return fast enough to save us from this nightmare. And I don't say that Ronda Rousey needs to be fired. If Ronda Rousey wants to be on the WWE roster, that's great. But I do think that Triple H has to take a hard look at this and go, I don't know if I want to keep her in the forefront of the women's division at this point, a women's division that quite frankly, I've said it a couple times, looks like it's getting a little bit stale. And I asked the question, like Logan Paul is the prime example to me. When you talk about Logan Paul, someone who came in as an outsider and has busted his ass, and sometimes it's not about how technical you are, right? Logan in the Roman Reigns match used very simple wrestling, but he used it very effectively. And he knew how to work the crowd very effectively. And he knew how to work with Roman Reigns in an effective manner that made him exciting to watch. And Logan Paul sells. Ronda Rousey just doesn't sell. She was not willing to sell Shotzi. And say what you want about Shotzi, but it doesn't matter who your opponent is. When you're put into the ring, you have to sell. It doesn't matter if it's Shotzi, Liv Morgan, Natalya. You have to get in that ring and sell. And the no sell on that apron DDT, the basic no sell when Shotzi hits the big dive off of the barricade to then just get back in the ring, arm drag off the top rope into an armbar. That kind of stuff doesn't make sense to me. I mean, how do you think Ronda Rousey responds to this is a question, right? Does Ronda wakes up, or I'm assuming she saw it during Monday Night Raw. Was she generating this heat? Was she excited? Is she surprised? Is she upset? Ronda doesn't tend to like when the crowd doesn't like her or when they respond negatively, so I'm sure on SmackDown we'll get an earful from Ronda Rousey, but it'll be another kind of mundane promo that doesn't move the needle. And once again, like here we are here we are going into SmackDown. She knocked off Shotzi. What's left for Ronda Rousey in the next 9 weeks? Who's left? I mean, the only thing that even kind of makes sense is Shayna Baszler, but right now they're buddy-buddy. I don't know. Raquel's hurt. I think they were building towards Raquel, but don't feed all your young talent to Ronda Rousey. Don't waste it on her. I think it's time. I mean, I really do think it's time. I don't want to travel all the way to Royal Rumble with her as the champion, and I'm afraid we are. And that's a little bit scary of a thought. Last kind of thing I want to touch on this is, once again, I think Sasha Banks has to be sitting at that negotiation table. Whoever she's negotiating with, let's say it's Triple H, she has to be sitting at that table and just grinning ear to ear going, you need me. You need me more than you know you need me. This is what you're giving the fans. You're giving them a week in, week out Ronda Rousey, and you're putting her up against all of this kind of lifeless talent right now that's floundering. WWE has a lot of young women's talent that I think has potential to become extremely over with the crowd. I think Shotzi, if booked correctly, Shotzi could be big. She could be a big star. In the same vein that Britt Baker is a big star, I don't really give a fuck how good they wrestle. It's more about personality and look and how they can get over with the crowd. And I think Shotzi can do that. And I think there's a lot of I think Liv Morgan can get there. I think a lot of these women can get there. But if you keep feeding them to Ronda Rousey, who we know is not going to be around forever, it's not a good look. And so Sasha Banks has to be sitting there just licking her lips going, write the check. Write the check, Triple H. I will come back. I will save this SmackDown women's division, and we can move forward and start putting over some of this young talent. But right now, they're like the hashtag, it's not fire Ronda Rousey. I'd rather have hashtag get Ronda out of the main events. Let Ronda wrestle in the mid-card. Let her have some mid-card feuds. If her name holds that much weight, if Ronda is that big of a draw, then you don't need her holding the title week in and week out. But for some reason, they keep going back to the well. I said this about Triple H right now. Triple H is doing the comfortable thing, right? Look at where we are at right now. And tell me that we are in that much better of a position than we were around WrestleMania last year. Look at the big names. Becky Lynch. We're waiting on Charlotte. Ronda Rousey. Roman Reigns. Seth Rollins. All this NXT influx of talent, they're not moving the needle. They're all in the mid-card. Johnny Gargano, he's stuck with The Miz. Candice LeRae fighting Dakota Kai on Monday Night NXT. It's like, still someone show me where this big change from Vince McMahon to Triple H is, because I don't see it. I definitely don't see it. Second story here of the day. Apparently after War Games went off the air, Roman Reigns and Kevin Owens got into a verbal altercation over an unplanned spot in the War Games match that led to Roman Reigns thinking that his eardrum was busted open. And I think I know the spot because it was awkward. Kevin Owens was screaming at Roman Reigns, and then he reached back and slapped the fucking life out of that man. And it definitely didn't look like Roman was ready to eat that slap. And then Roman looked like he returned the favor. And if you recall, then I think a couple minutes later, Roman slams Kevin Owens to the mat by his face as he's falling down. And you could see visible, I said, they're either really selling this match or Roman's not happy. And so come to find out, Roman wasn't happy. Roman was upset. Now, let's talk about it. Let's talk about these things happen, right? If we're going to critique AEW, we got to talk about it when it happens in WWE. But there's a stark difference in what just happened. Let's start with number one. If you're Roman Reigns, because I see the IWC reacting to this in a funny way, but if you're Roman Reigns and you get slapped in the side of the head and you're not expecting it and your eardrum fucking just bust open and all of a sudden your ears are ringing, this is a normal reaction. This is how grown men react when they're slapped. The adrenaline pumps up. You're not in a good mood. You're not going to walk out of that ring happy. You're going to be professional. You're going to finish the match, and then you're going to go to the back, and you're going to let Kevin Owens know, hey, man, that's not cool. That's not okay. Are we going to have a problem? Or I'm assuming, knowing who Kevin Owens is, that he probably was like, hey, man, heat of the moment, my bad, shouldn't have done it. It happened. This kind of thing happens in wrestling. Like, I assume that's what happened, but these are normal reactions. This isn't an all-out media scrum. This isn't a guy eating a muffin, getting overly pissed off about some EVPs doing an interview. This is a guy getting slapped in the side of the head a little harder than he should and going to the back and needing to talk about it, right? I think that you have to look at, when you look at Kevin Owens and you look at Roman Reigns and the respect that they probably have for each other, they are kind of the epitome of what I'd call like casual and IWC avatars in wrestling, right? Because Kevin Owens is that IWC guy, that darling, right? Has come up, wrestled in garages, in gyms, Ring of Honor. He's been all over. He's been with the Young Bucks. He's that guy. And then, Roman Reigns he's the ex-football player, right? He's the guy, he's the outsider who came in and took over the industry. So I think, the chemistry, when these two guys line up against each other, you could feel it. This is the magic of pro wrestling. But I also think that these guys have kind of a stark contrast in how they wrestle every night. I think that Kevin Owens is a little bit of the guy that, like, when the lights turn on, he hits the ignition and the motor is running at full RPM the minute he steps in that ring, and he's going to slap the shit out of you and he's going to deal with it, and it's just all emotion all the time. Whereas I think Roman Reigns is a very meticulous, like, cerebral performer. I heard him talk on Impulsive about knowing when to pause, when to get a reaction, how to work the angles, work the magic, work the movement of the crowd, how to be in the right position at the right time. So there's a stark difference between these two guys. And so you expect maybe Roman waiting on something and Kevin Owens just throwing because he's amped up and ready to go. And I think that those kind of things that cause sometimes accidents like this are the same things that are the reason why these guys have extremely great chemistry in the ring. Like, there's no doubt there were so many kind of dream lineups in that match, right? You had Roman could line up against Drew. You had Roman could line up against Sheamus. And definitely the most kind of magical feeling moment in that match was when Roman lined up against Kevin Owens. Like, that is right now, that's the money match in WWE. And I understand, that the rumor is they're building towards that at Royal Rumble. But, like, I think that match needs to be made when there's an actual belief that Kevin Owens can win, and not that, this is just another step in the direction towards WrestleMania with Roman Reigns carrying that title. I did see some people on the internet, screaming out the normal, this is a plant, this isn't real, this is a work, they're trying to build some real life heat going into Royal Rumble. I don't think so. I think what happened is Kevin Owens got excited. He slapped the shit out of Roman Reigns, busted his eardrum open, and they got into an argument in the back. And this, you got to be careful when people throw around like the word soft, because I've seen people go, Roman Reigns can't really fight, he's soft. I don't buy that shit. I don't buy that shit. Now, Roman Reigns may not be a fighter. He may not be a UFC fighter. He may not be Brock Lesnar, but I guarantee you that as an ex-football player, Roman Reigns can throw some fucking hands. It may not be pretty, but he's big and he's physical, and I don't know that I want that fucking problem. I don't know if I'm Kevin Owens if I want that problem. Nor do I think Roman Reigns wants Kevin Owens as a problem. Here is the interesting thing. Here's the interesting thing. For all the IWC that go, all the WWE people are going to defend these backstage issues. 20 minutes. It's reported this was 20 minutes long. It was a heated conversation. It got loud. There was some yelling, but it never got physical. It never turned into a problem. And you know why? It's respect for the company. It's knowing what you can get away with. It's knowing that if it turns physical, that there's a problem. And this is the difference in the respect that Triple H commands versus the respect that Tony Khan commands, right? Roman Reigns isn't an EVP. He knows if he goes back there and he does some stupid shit that he's going to get a consequence. Same with Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens knows if he goes back there and he does some stupid shit, he's going to leave with a consequence. That's why these guys, they can go back there and they can yell at each other and they can hash things out. I even read one article, I believe, from Dave Meltzer that said something to the effect of Triple H told both of them, get in the locker room and hash this shit out. And now the word is that these guys have no problem moving forward. They have no problem working together. Now, does Kevin Owens get a receipt for this? I'm guessing that it's probably Royal Rumble. There will probably be a nice stiff shot to start the match. And there will probably even be some laughing involved, right? One good stiff shot that Roman gives to KO, and they kind of laugh it off and go, all right, we're even. Now we can go do this. But the IWC, man, they're still all over Roman Reigns. I don't understand at this point in time, I see, they talk about, oh, if I was booked this way for this long, then I would be as over as Roman Reigns. Then why doesn't AEW book that way? Why don't other companies book that way? Why? You have to have somebody who doesn't get boring. We're going on 3 years of Roman Reigns, and you guys are saying that it's all booking. It's not all booking. Like this idea that Roman Reigns is just a product of booking. How do we go? And he can thank Sami Zayn, right? He can thank the Usos. He can thank all of these people who've played a part in keeping him interesting. But the idea is that Roman Reigns has stayed interesting. And it led me to ask a question of what matters more in professional wrestling when you talk about someone like Kevin Owens and you talk about someone like Roman Reigns, because there's the consensus from the IWC is that Kevin Owens is a better all around, like, how do you phrase this? I guess there's just people who think that Kevin Owens is more deserving than Roman Reigns. And I go, well, what's more important in pro wrestling? Is it selling tickets or is it how hard you work? Because if you're talking about how hard you work, Kevin Owens is that guy. Kevin Owens gives it 110% every time he steps in that ring. But if you're talking about selling tickets and selling merch, that's Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns is that guy. We've had Kevin Owens as champion before, and he doesn't move the needle like Roman Reigns. Nobody moves the needle like Roman Reigns. And I think there's got to be a fear for Triple H that once this bloodline thing kind of has run its course, that there could be a slight drop off in the amounts of like interest in WWE if Roman's not the champion. The next champion following Roman Reigns is going to have to be somebody who can keep the crowd's attention. That's why I think like someone like Sami Zayn is a prime candidate, because Sami Zayn can keep the crowd's attention. I think Kevin Owens isn't a bad option, but like it's going to take being very careful. And like I said, I don't love this idea. I'm not a big fan of the idea of doing Kevin Owens versus Roman Reigns going into Royal Rumble. It's going to work. It's going to sell tickets. It'll be a big fight feel. It'll feel, somehow they'll convince us again that Roman's in danger, but Roman's not in danger. You can see they've got it laid out. The path is pretty obvious at this point. We're going to go Roman and KO at Royal Rumble, which will lead to the dissension will begin with Sami Zayn. We're going to get Roman versus Sami at Elimination Chamber because it's in Canada, and that will be, the fucking atmosphere will be insane, as for the near falls that Sami gets. And then it will be Roman versus whatever at WrestleMania. It's either The Rock, Cody Rhodes, whoever wins the Royal Rumble. Like they're setting up for a big WrestleMania. But like, I don't love this idea of just feeding these guys to Roman Reigns going into WrestleMania. But what else can you do? All right, so let's talk about Monday Night Raw, because I've been critical the last couple weeks of Monday Night Raw, and sometimes I swear that Triple H is listening to me. I know he's not. I'm not naive. But sometimes I do swear that Triple H is listening to me, because all of a sudden, all of the things I've complained about for the last 2.5 weeks, they fixed them. They fixed Monday Night Raw. So this is the top 5 things that I think Monday Night Raw got right this week. Starting with Becky Lynch's cold opening. It's hard. I think it would be, I'd never want to be in Triple H's shoes. I never want to own a wrestling company. I never want to have to book. I love to sit in this chair and fantasy book and tell you guys how fucking genius I am and how right I am, and then ignore all the times I'm wrong. Because that's all you have to do, right? When you talk, you just ignore the times you're wrong. There's an impossible thing you have to deal with when you book wrestling shows, and that is, do you continue going to the well of the people that work, or do you cultivate new talent? And the problem is with Becky Lynch, she works. Everything Becky Lynch does works. Every time she comes to the ring, the crowd responds. And so opening Monday Night Raw with Becky Lynch, when I first read that, I go, here we go. And then Becky goes into the crowd and cuts a promo with our guy Bobby and Zachary there. That was phenomenal. It was the perfect opening to the show. It gave Monday Night Raw personality. Maybe this is what's been missing, is Becky Lynch. Maybe what's been missing is the Street Profits, right? But Monday Night Raw had personality again. It felt like a unique show. It feels... it feels like they got the crowd back involved. And like I said, I don't know if Triple H, I don't know if somebody's in his ear. I don't know who's talking, but it needed personality. It got personality. The fact that they went up and fought in the stands, that they went up and they fought in the concession area, all of that stuff felt like things that engaged the crowd. The last couple of weeks, Monday Night Raw has felt like just wrestling match, 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 wrestling match. It's lacked that backstage kind of feel that keeps casual fans' minds running. We can stay involved. We can stay in it. And Becky opened the show perfectly. She got the crowd involved. I think she picked up the energy of the show. And coming out of Survivor Series, that's what you needed on Monday Night Raw. SmackDown will now have to compete again. Like, SmackDown will have to have that same energy, and then we'll be back running full stride. The second thing that I liked about Monday Night Raw, we got the OC and the Judgment Day match that we should have got at War Games. This was the match I was calling for. Now, I would have preferred it to be a Survivor Series elimination style match, but I know on Monday Night Raw you don't necessarily have the time or space for that long of a match. But we got it. They got that part right too. I wanted that at War Games, but fuck it, right? We got a good match at War Games with Finn and then AJ Styles, and we got this match at Monday Night Raw. So who am I to complain about this? This is awesome. One thing I wish that would happen, though, is that WWE just needs to drop this intergender tag rule. It's stupid. Let them fight. Let Rhea Ripley fight with the guys. You can control it through story. You don't have to control it through rules. I did like the idea that Rhea Ripley just ignored the rule altogether anyway. I think it made for a fun match. Look, you saw Mia Yim and Rhea Ripley. They have motors. They can go. They can fight with the men. And that's awesome, man. That was a great, the first 2 matches of Monday Night Raw, opening up with Becky Lynch and then going straight into the OC and Judgment Day. There was energy there. And I can say whatever I want about Dominic Mysterio, but he's getting a little bit of a reaction from the crowd, especially when he's in purposeful matches. Rhea Ripley's doing her thing. I called for the end of the Judgment Day, but then you do something interesting. This is that roller coaster booking from Triple H I'm talking about, right? It's up and down. It's up and down. It doesn't make sense. Finn takes a clean pin, and then all of a sudden we get the match we want, and we get, Judgment Day winning. But I'm not going to complain about that because this was the match I wanted to see, and this is the match I got to see. And so Monday Night Raw starts off 1 and 2 extremely good. So then we roll that into number 3. And that is the third thing that Monday Night Raw got right was bringing back the Street Profits. Jesus, the energy that these guys have. That the life they inject into a show that I've been saying, Monday Night Raw has felt stale. It's felt boring. The crowd hasn't been involved. And then all of a sudden you start injecting personality back into the show. Becky Lynch, personality. The Street Profits, personality. There is not a team in professional wrestling outside of the Acclaimed who can energize a crowd the way the Street Profits do. The Street Profits and the Acclaimed right now. The New Day used to be, but the New Day have cooled off a little bit. The Usos, while they work good, they don't affect the crowd the way that the Street Profits and the Acclaim do. Those two teams have so much energy. And so you saw it on Monday night when they came out. The crowd just gets hyped. They get out of their seat. They're excited. And now we got to talk about, is Angelo Dawkins in the best shape of his life? He looked phenomenal. Like, you talk about a guy who buckled down, and there was a discussion at a point in time. 6 months ago, we would have conversations. I would talk about Montez Ford, and Montez Ford is the next big star, which still is, no doubt. Montez Ford is the next biggest thing in professional wrestling. But we got to talk about Angelo Dawkins, because he's keeping pace with Montez Ford now. This is a guy who went to the back, sat in his locker at some point and said, hey, I could do this too. And he went and he put the work in the gym. And we have to recognize, like, he's standing toe for toe with Montez Ford. He's doing the same moveset now, while also throwing big bodies around. Angelo Dawkins, don't sleep on Angelo Dawkins being one of the other big next things in WWE. The Street Profits are a big deal. And while everybody was calling to break them up, I think right now we may see like a renaissance of the Street Profits, and it's time. Like, we gotta start. And I think I'm jumping. My brain's all over the place right now. But we got to talk about, so we're getting a tag team match next week with Riddle and Elias, which, once again, clusterfuck team thrown together, but okay, whatever. But we're starting to see that the tag team belts defended a little bit more. I think that Triple H, he heard what I said. We got to start defending these belts. We got to start giving guys purpose. Guys can't just be running around having tag team matches that don't matter. We got to get... Hey, man, if it's Riddle and Elias, that's cool. The Street Profits need that mix. The Alpha Academy need that mix, which, just side notes, I fucking said I think that if the Street Profits came back and fought against the Alpha Academy, that I was going to do something. I'll have to go back and watch and say what it was. But that is just like the formula for whoever comes back gets to fight the Alpha Academy. The fourth thing that I thought Monday Night Raw got correct, and this is kind of a callback to the other three that I talked about here, but that was the crowd interaction. And if you don't think that was deliberate, you're insane. The amount of time that wrestlers went into the crowd or engaged with the crowd directly was by design. WWE and Monday Night Raw especially has had a problem in the last couple weeks with the crowd falling asleep, the crowd going quiet on them. And so if you don't think that there was a deliberate meeting in the back from Triple H or whoever that said, we're going into Becky starting off the show in the crowd, that's deliberate. That engages the crowd. That forces the crowd to pay attention. Dexter Lumis and The Miz having a anything goes match where they can spill out into the crowd, that's deliberate. The Street Profits not entering straight down the ramp, jumping the barricade, walking through the crowd, that's deliberate. Those are all things that keep the crowd excited and awake. 3 hours is a long time. I've been to numerous Monday Night Raws. 3 hours is a long time to sit through a wrestling show, especially if it's just wrestling match, wrestling match, wrestling match, wrestling match. So that going into the crowd, that is deliberate, and expect to see that on a consistent basis moving forward. Pay attention here, guys. The Monday Night Raw is going to be a show that goes into the crowd more and more often, because I think they saw this week how well that works. And the last thing that Monday Night Raw got correct was that was a main event. That was the main event. That's what we've been complaining about. No disrespect to Asuka. No disrespect to Alexa Bliss. No disrespect to Bianca Belair. But the last couple weeks where those women have been main eventing Monday Night Raw have not felt like a main event. They just felt like the ending to a show. But KO and Jey Uso, main event Jey Uso, that was the main event. I don't think that from here forward, there should be a show that ends without Kevin Owens, Seth Rollins, or Becky Lynch being in the main event. Those are your main event talent. Use them the way they're supposed to be used. Kevin Owens and Jey Uso put on a show. The whole Sami Zayn storyline, the thread lines that are running through that whole bloodline thing. Once again, here it goes. The Usos are back to save the day, along with Kevin Owens, but they saved the day. That was the main event that Monday Night Raw needed. This felt to me, and I don't want to sound like the old head, but Kevin Owens and Kevin Owens and main event Jey Uso felt like an Attitude Era main event. When you tie in the Sami Zayn stuff and you tie in all the bloodline and Kevin Owens and this long build, it felt more like a Attitude Era main event. Not bad. 41 minutes. That's not a bad show. Wasn't a lot to talk about, but I told you guys I was going to get passionate and ramble because I actually did enjoy Monday Night Raw this week, which is good. I'm glad. I'm excited. Now I'm excited to go watch Dynamite this week. And then SmackDown. Hopefully we get a trifecta. We get 3 good shows. I think MJF is supposed to be on Dynamite this week, which that's always basically the reason I want to watch Dynamite. But that is all the time that I have today, guys, for the Casual Wrestling Daily Podcast. We're going to pick up where we left off tomorrow. Make sure to tune in Monday through Friday for more amazing WWE and AEW wrestling podcasting content. Tomorrow we're gonna do a bracket fight, and I'm gonna look more into what we're doing. I think I'm gonna design this one. I was thinking about breaking down and doing a who had the best gear at Survivor Series War Games. So I think that'll be our bracket fight for tomorrow. But as always, I am the Notorious Nerdy D. And I will talk to you guys tomorrow.
Step in the ring, if you ready, let's go. Hey, Casual Wrestling Community Show. You already know. Talking WWE. Keep it rolling and hosted by Notorious Nerdy D. Don't for sure that you gon' find. Tune in cause it's online. Hit 'em with a figure 4 leg lock, power driver or clothesline. We bringing that heat like for show. But you should